Welcome everyone to my podcast Winning the Journey Within. In the first episode, I have had pleasure to talk to one of the Europe's most accomplished basketball players, Sonja Vasić. She was born in Belgrade and has had very successful career playing for National Team of Serbia as well as in some of the best teams in Europe and also in the WNBA. After retiring in 2021, she became active in sports administration. Her legacy continues to inspire athletes worldwide, and I hope the conversation that we had will inspire you also. Sonja, welcome. Thank you for finding worth in my project and being a part of Winning the Journey Within podcast. I'm very happy that you are my first guest, and I'm sure that we'll do some great things together.
Thank you, Mima, for inviting me and giving me the honor to break the ice of this project.
Perfect. Well, everybody knows, and I'm going to tell everybody who you are on the basketball court, but I want you for the beginning to start and tell us who is Sonja behind the scenes.
Well, yeah, honestly, now it's a little bit different because obviously it's been some years since I retired, so I think me and other people don't see me anymore as a basketball player, but even before, I always strived to kind of change the narrative and to be not basketball player, not to make that my identity. So kind of, multitasking with more things than just playing. But obviously, I think if you would ask me, I would firstly and mostly describe me as a family person. I think that's the biggest focus of my life. That was, the main focus even before I had my own family, and especially now when I created with my husband our family. So yeah, I would say family person who, is super organized and super busy, always trying to do something more and never satisfied with what I have. But, in the end, that's just to keep me moving and keep me looking for something more always.
That's a great characteristic of an athlete, so that you bring it into your personal life, and I think it can bring also great things in your family life as well. But you mentioned how you never wanted to have your identity only in basketball. Was that always like that, or did something during your career remind you okay, I'm more than this, I'm more than just a professional basketball player?
Yeah, obviously you have different phases, throughout your career. I have to admit that, especially during my prime time, I was super focused on basketball. Even though I was interested in other stuff and I had hobbies, or I was, doing something else also, basketball was my main focus, and I was, one of those sickos who spend extra time in the gym and watch all of their videos and all that stuff that kind of take a big part of your life. But still, even from the beginning, and I have to be thankful mainly to my family for that, it was more you cannot be the only thing you do in your life. So I had to focus also on my school when I was super young, and then that actually helped because it gave me connection with people outside of the basketball. So my best friends, most of them come from outside of the basketball, and that kind of gave me connection with, I say it's real world, because in basketball you live in a bubble where you don't have a realistic objective on anything, because we are super protective, I think, throughout our career as a players. At least I felt like that on the level where I played. Yeah, I was lucky, my mom was super focused on me, staying focused on school, learning, studying throughout my career. A lot of time it took me longer than, normal students and people who main focus in life was that, but they never let me kind of, lose the connection with that side of the world. And then, it kind of stayed with me even later in my career. I always kind of look for other opportunities and look for something that might, later give me, chances for something that I want to work or, just help with or do some projects and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening. Now you are having also a successful career since you stopped playing basketball, and you are in some leading positions in great places, and it's something that it's a dream of an athlete who spends all their lives playing basketball and working out and being, like you said, completely focused. So what do you think, like, how did basketball help you in this aspect? How did basketball prepare you to become a woman in leading positions in the positions that you are in right now?
Well, yeah, obviously, I think basketball was a huge part of, who I am as a person. I always say, besides my parents, who were the main persons who shaped me, the second, I think, comes basketball, and all the people through basketball who had their influence on me. But yeah, I think first and mostly it comes basically all the roles that you have in your team, just having the experience of being, whether you will be the last player sometimes on the team who is just, fighting to get their spot on a roster, whether you're just, I don't know, defensive player, whether you're just a role player, starter, and then eventually a leader. Once you go through all of those roles and once you kind of see the perspective of every person on the team, I think it's super easy to lead, because on many aspects being leader is the easiest thing, being those little pieces who make the machine work is much tougher because you don't get all the spotlight and all the stuff, Most of the time people think that it's hard being leader because of the pressure, but we know a lot of people talk about pressure being the privilege actually, because you are in that spot. So obviously, being in different situations in the team, that helped. But as I mentioned, I think it also comes, a little bit with the way I was kind of raised and the expectations that people around me had of me. My parents were strict. My father always had super high expectations, how you need to behave, not just the way, how you need to play and perform on the court, but more how you need to behave, how you represent your family name and stuff like that. That was a huge part. So I think that kind of installed in me really early the thoughts of, how I handle myself and how I appear when I'm, I wouldn't say a public figure, but kind of you're given a little bit of the spotlight. So that made me super aware of all of that and kind of be prepared for the, opportunities when they come to be ready. So I don't know if I would say that I'm having a super successful career after basketball, but I am a good example of how smoothly you can change careers. Basically in like 3 months I had a job opportunity that I liked, and I took over and had some really great experience in my job that I have now. So that's what I'm like more proud of. My transition was really smooth, and big part of that was just making myself prepare for transition.
Yeah, and it's very, very important. You also have seen a lot of players as you're getting older and not having a direction, or what do I want to do, or who am I without basketball now. Like, it hits you hard, and it takes a toll on your mental health. So this transition is very important, and it's very important to find ways. And we are lucky that nowadays there are organizations like FIBA, for example, who are giving us these opportunities to learn and to search and to just see where we are and what we would like to do, what is our position in future. So I'm happy that you mentioned that, and I'm happy that you haven't struggled with it. And as you said, like, the family had a big role in your life and in how they raised you. But I'm sure that when you were younger, when you were growing up, that wasn't something that was always so pleasant. So can you shed a light on those moments?
Well, not even younger, even in later stages of my career, it's not easy. I always say, my parents and my sister are the biggest reason I had the career that I had. They were the team behind me, the ones that made the wheels turn, but that made a lot of, opinions and a lot of people involved in decision making and, stuff regarding my life. So obviously, even when you're younger, I mean, let's speak honestly, I think I can see it with my daughter who is 2 years old. She has already opinions and she doesn't accept what I tell her to do. So, I don't think I was anything easier when I was younger. And obviously I had a lot of, my perspectives and my things how I wanted to do it, and it wasn't possible to always do it like that. So yeah, it was hard. I actually, for people who don't know, I started playing basketball because my dad comes from basketball world, and we were always around camps and players, games, etc. So we kind of wanted to play ball. You see ball, you play ball when you're a kid. And it actually, he was against it. When you come from that world, a little bit behind scenes, it's not all pinky like you see it on a TV. But we pushed and it happened, and he was my coach for first 7 years. So basically, he made me the player I am, all the basics that I had installed in me. But for mostly, he was my first coach and the most strict coach I ever had. You were never good enough for him, especially at that age. So it kind of really early installed in me the expectations, of you always have to be the best, you always have to work the hardest, you always have to give your all. And that kind of was, pattern throughout my career. And on the other side, you have like my mom and my sister who was always there to balance the things. I was super lucky because my sister actually played with me until I went abroad. And as all older sisters, she was a little bit like a buffer. All the first hits came through her, and then when it comes to me, it was more like flowery and butterfly picture. And I was able, to just enjoy the basketball more because, when anything was happening, she was always the first one to hear it and kind of later share whatever news were with me easier. So, they were the ones who kind of pushed. They were the ones, who saw bigger picture when I didn't see it. Like there are stories that people that say that my dad said that I would be the best European player even when I was 10. He never said that to me.
He knew something.
But people say that he actually shared that with them. So, obviously, there was something, that in our house that kind of helped me push. I wouldn't say it was only them. Obviously, I had something in me that kind of reacted good on all of those impulses. But as I mentioned, it wouldn't be anything without them. And it wasn't always easy. As I said, I think the biggest struggle was the perfectionist part that they kind of installed super early in me. It actually later really lingered in my career, especially in the beginning, and it was really hard, at some point to deal with it until I kind of accepted it and then ask for help, and then you actually get help and you kind of move over it.
Yeah, but you were very, very lucky to have somebody from basketball and somebody who obviously believed so much in you and pushed you and all that throughout all your career, not only just these 7 years that he was your coach. But is there something that you would be able to say to those girls and boys who don't have this person in their life, who don't have the support, who either have parents who are more for like a tough love type of thing, or not even supportive, or not being there for the kids, or for the even professional athletes, because we see that also as you are growing up and making career, it's not always easy, and it's not always the story that you have. So would you recommend them something like how to deal?
I mean, for me, it always first comes to don't forget why. Why you started playing. At the end, all of us started because we love basketball. You fell in love with game, either on TV or playing it in, yards and open courts outside. So don't let all of that, the influence other people, their expectations make you forget why you started. And as long as possible, if you can keep playing just because you love it, you will enjoy it, and then you will play better. You know, it's actually usually the process. But later, you know, obviously I was lucky to have that kind of support and somebody I can lean on in my house. But I think for anybody, it's actually, you know, really important the team you choose to believe and work with. It doesn't even have to be the best quality team, but you have to have some people in your life whose words will be kind of guidance for you, especially when it's hard, you know. For me, you know, when I later on kind of even had to take more care of my career, me personally, you know, I had to have my coach who I believe, with who I work when I'm at home, my physio, my conditioning coach, my psychologist. Like, you need, obviously when you're young, you will not have so many, but you know, when you practice and stuff like that, you have a coach, you know. Do you believe him? Do you have trust in him? Do you respect him? You know, and stuff like that, because especially when parents get involved, the lines get crossed and it's super hard then to make decision, and usually the kids are in the middle and stuff like that. So for me, that's like really important, you know, choosing the club, choosing the coach who you feel like they are doing the good work with you, not just basketball wise, but as we mentioned, raising you and raising your character, because they will have influence. Probably the most time besides school you will spend with will be the people in the club. And then obviously, you know, don't get lost and don't get stuck on the flashy stuff on social media and TV and stuff like that, because you know, nowadays, you know, me too, like if I start today, my initial thought would be like, oh, I want to be Caitlin Hart. Not, is it realistic, you know, expectation? You know, can we all be the best? Can we all win millions? So that's why I say, you know, don't forget why you started. You know, you start something because you like to do it, not because you be like, oh, I want to play basketball because I want to earn millions. Because if you start like that, probably it will not happen.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I just want to reflect to your life now and ask you, what kind of parent do you want to be? What do you want to take the same path as your parents? Did you like get maybe more experience, seeing different things? You left, you played all over the world, and are you gonna like combine the experiences to be more available to your
Yeah, first and foremost, I hope they don't decide to play basketball.
Why do we all say that?
Me, because I know myself, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to control myself not to have comments and stuff like that, you know, to be super, you know, on the distance. And in the end, you know, I don't want basketball to ruin our parent-daughter, mother-daughter relationship, you know. So yeah, I hope they won't play. Honestly, I mean, you can speak a lot. You don't know how you will behave once the situation come. I would say that, you know, I hope, and not because they did it wrong, like, I hope I would behave different than my parents, but not because they did it wrong. Like I say it, like I wouldn't accomplish anything. I wouldn't be nobody without them. Like they were the reason, you know, I got where I got. But I hope I would do it differently, just, you know, because mostly I think like I want to keep safe our like parent-kid relationship, because once you put other factors, the lines get blurry, you know. So many times my dad had to be advisor, coach, manager, you know, like, and he wasn't dad, you know. And in the end, you know, especially when you're still a kid, you need your parent. You don't need somebody telling you if you need to work on your lefty and shoot like this and stuff like that. So yeah, that's why I hope I will not be put in that situation with my kids, because I cannot guarantee that I would behave the way that I would like to.
Yeah. Okay, now basketball. Let's talk about that. So obviously, like, I was able to follow you. We're the same age. We once were in the same country, in the same national team when we were really young, very long time ago. And so I know that you were that player that everybody talked about in our country from when I was 12 years old. It was Sonja. You didn't even need the last name. It was just Sonja. But you left early. You left very early from Serbia and started playing professionally. And let's share a little bit of that story. Like, how was these first years in Serbia and the feeling you had here playing, and then like just like leaving and going to Barcelona, right?
Yes, I mean, obviously for me it was a huge shift because, as I mentioned, like my mom kind of took care of all of my life besides basketball. So she was really like, the school has to still be a priority. You have to go to school regularly. You know, she was, you know, I mean, I was straight A student, you know, going to competitions from math and stuff like that, like so many different things. And she didn't allow us actually to practice twice a day here in Serbia, me and my sister. Like occasionally we would do it if it fits the school schedule, but even when I started playing pro for Red Star first team, like I didn't practice twice a day. So that was like a huge shift, you know, going from home, being with, you know, living with your parents, home, me life with still focus on school, you know, and then basketball balancing, to going completely pro, you know, living alone. Like I did, like my parents did come a lot, you know, I was lucky my dad was retired, so he could come a lot and spend time with me. But at the end, you know, suddenly you're living alone. You know, I have to say I was a cozy Belgrade kid. You know, I lived with my mom. I had breakfast, lunch, dinner all the time served at the table. My clothes washed, my apartment cleaned. I didn't do anything, you know. So suddenly you go from all that cozy life to living alone, and then all of that juggle with playing pro, where, you know, I played in Serbia for Red Star. I was their youngest captain ever, and, you know, I played 40 minutes. You know, in 40 minutes, like, you will always get things done. You know, I will get three throws, 2-3 layups, 1-3, then offensive rebound, blah, 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 and I will always get, you know, buckets and stuff like that, you know. Suddenly I go in, you know, pro team where you, like, I got a chance. I cannot speak, like, my first coach, she was like super supportive. Like, she gave me a lot of chances. I'm not sure I would give myself so many chances. So I played, but at the end, you know, you play 15, 20 minutes, you know, the ball is not going just in your hands, you know. In the beginning, I was never the player who kind of looked for my opportunities. I always kind of felt like they will come. And, you know, the first season goes by and I had so many games, like I shot once or twice during the whole game and stuff like that. Like, in the end, like, nobody wants a foreigner who doesn't score, you know. So it was a huge shift for me, life-like, basketball-like. You know, I had to really kind of reflect and think, you know, how I want to play. And honestly, I didn't figure it out that first year. You know, I learned some things, but not completely. But yeah, I have to say it wasn't easy, you know, and I was lucky. You know, first, you know, Barcelona is a great city, and I had another fellow Serbian, Miljana, at the time Musović, who kind of took over me and make sure that I'm not stuck in a house all the time, feeling bad about myself, crying over my misery. So I had help, but yeah, it was, you know, a learning process, you know, and I wouldn't do it differently because I think the reasons why I left were the right reasons. But still, you know, it was hard and it was a big change.
And from there you went to Bourges, right?
Yeah, I went to Bourges, France, and I honestly say that was probably the best move for that kind of young player and for my style of basketball at that time. You know, I went to play for Pierre Vincent. He's still one of my favorite coaches I ever had. And, you know, you play in France, it's pretty much structured, you know, team. You pretty much know very well what everybody does, their role, you know, how ball plays, offense, defense, whatever, you know, so many, you know, I wouldn't say rules, but you're clear with the pathway of everything, and that fitted me perfectly. Like, I'm so good. If you tell me go right, I'm going right, and I'm listening to you going right, and it will be super easy. And it helped me, you know, kind of come back after Barcelona, because I was really in an environment where, I don't know, I fitted well, I understood coach well. On the other hand, you know, he was super supportive. Like, I work a lot alone, you know, coming to do extras on the days off and stuff like this. He helped, you know, coming, you know, to work with me, work out. So, yeah, honestly, I think it was probably the best ever choice to get me to bounce back. On the other hand, it's a small city, not a lot of things to do. I focused pretty much on basketball, and it was really a smart choice and the time moving, forward. And as you mentioned, that was the big thing for me. I always kind of had my dad who had, I guess, a vision, what's a good choice. For instance, like Barca was super my choice, when your little kid hears which clubs want them. And when I heard Barca, for me it was like, done, I want Barcelona. My dad wanted Burj from the beginning. Like he was really huge, and in the end, it showed as a great decision. So yeah, it's helpful to have people who kind of understand, the scene a little bit closer and a little bit better.
And did that help you in making decisions forward?
Yeah, it's funny because it was huge decision leaving Bourges. I had 1+1 contract, and we started negotiating. And then it's actually funny because the first club that called me was actually CSKA Moscow. They still existed at that time, and I made any decisions in my family, it was like basically like elections. Everybody vote, and then if it's clear, it's easy decision. If it's not, then you have to kind of give arguments to win basically your side. And
so everybody was included. Your sister, your mom,
everybody.
And your dad.
And
your agent?
Yeah, obviously, but bigger says what we decide, And we kind of we turned down CSKA because I was for staying in Bourges. My parents were for moving for different reasons, but both of them were for moving to Russia. And we turned down CSKA, and then Spartak Moscow called, and they were the actual, at that moment, champions of EuroLeague, which was like huge. I mean, for me, it was like, why would they want me in their team when they have all of these players? But they called, and I still was for staying in Bourges. So my parents and me, we started negotiating. And it was like, well, let's see the contract. So basically, because Bourges still had chances to give me kind of an offer, and they were like, okay, if they at least move a little bit like up, we will respect your decision and you will stay, no problem, whatever. They didn't. So I lost my argument, and I went to Moscow. At that time it was hard decision because I was super scared actually that I will not play there, so that was my biggest reason why I didn't want to go. But at the end, it turned out probably the best decision I ever made for my career. I never imagined, that actually that kind of a huge club with so many big names will be my home for 6 years. The club where I stayed the longest, and they were super supportive. I had 2 really big injuries there. Both my torn ACL happened there. They fully supported me, respected, really, I had a team to lean on during that process. So it turned out to be, probably the club that shaped me for my whole future career. But as I said, at the moment I didn't saw it, and I was against it. But yeah, the staff that we had there, all the stars that I played there, at the end, I played with Taurazi, Huber, Lauren Jackson, Sylvia Fowles, you name the best player at that time, I probably crossed them in Spartak. See how they practice, see how they behave on court, off court, how they carry themselves. Like, those were the years that completely shaped me as a player and kind of, made me who I am later on. And as I said, probably the club where I went from, the young player, the defensive player, the starter, and eventually a leader. So, yeah, super thankful for all my experience there, because it was, really something that I think gave me a lot for later life.
Yeah, but I want to reflect now on your confidence during all these years, because to me, your whole career, you appeared to be somebody with a lot of confidence, and like getting to know you, I know that's not the case. So like, let's start like in Serbia. Obviously, you built up your confidence and you see what you could do. leaving the first year and not having the opportunity to play as much and trying to find your spot on the European stage. And then like going to Bourges, getting that confidence back through the workouts, through the coach who trusts in you, through the team that you had and all that. And then going to the team with so many superstars and the champion of Europe. So like, can you reflect a little bit on that journey? How did you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the time in Serbia is actually the best time because you don't even talk about confidence, you know, you just play, you know, you're young, you play mostly with your friends, you're having fun, you know, so those are the years when you don't, I mean, confidence, what confidence, like even when I played pro and for the senior team, like I didn't think about whether I am, you know, scoring, not scoring, playing time, not playing time, you know, you were just doing what you're good at. And then the shift happened when I turned, I guess, completely pro, going abroad. And yeah, Barcelona was a huge hit for me. You know, struggled on so many levels. Like for instance, like I gained weight during, you know, my time in Barcelona, which was like first time for me ever. You know, I was super skinny as a kid. But yeah, you know, just being closed in house so many times, you know, and eating a lot my emotions out. So, you know, coming back home when we had a lot of, you know, championship for youth competitions and stuff like that, at that time was really for me like opportunity to get back to me and to feel myself a little bit, you know. And then continuing to Bourges obviously helped, you know, a lot, you know, it really helped, you know, being, you know, knowing my place, knowing my role. I don't know, I always felt like I'm a person who, if you give structure, I will feel confident because I know what I do, and if I do my part, then okay, if I do more, great, if I do less, well, I just know, you know, I have to do it. And I think Bourges was also the first place where I kind of started building my confidence from working out, you know. Gym was also always my place that got me like, I did my part, you know, I did the extra, I did what was mandatory, I did the extra, I followed everything, you know. Even if I play bad, I can look myself in a mirror because I know I'm clean, you know, I did what I could, and if that wasn't enough, but in the end that person was better than me, they guarded me better, or I couldn't stop them in defense and stuff like that. Spartak was different because at the end, you know, I had to be realistic. You know, I got there and I knew like there's not a lot of minutes for me, you know, or at the end, like those were big garbage minutes, you know, for me. But I was actually okay with that, you know, I probably because I was realistic, like I knew I will just use the opportunities I get, and then I will be super focused, like I will work extra, I will use the practices, you know, at the end, you know, I play at the practice against better players than somebody plays in their leagues, you know. So it kind of really helped me, you know, stay focused on the stuff that I want, and then find a pathway that makes me, you know, realistic and kind of which way I can get done what I want. But it got tricky later on once I kind of earn my spot and accomplish things. Then it's harder, you know. Now you don't want to go back. Now how you go from playing 20 to 5 minutes, you know. That was harder moments, and moments when you kind of start you know, first time, you know, judging, is this coach this or that or stuff like that. Thank God my parents always thought that problem is me. So they always kept me grounded. But yeah, at the end, you know, it was, you know, a lot of things. I think even later on, like I can, you know, even today I can name you the worst games I played for my national team, even in other career when I struggled so much, you know, when the game doesn't start good and the shots don't go in and my confidence is shaking. What I do now, like I had so many those games when like I feel lost, you know. Yeah. And at the end, you know, the only thing I could do is give my best. You know, luckily I was usually a player who didn't depend only on scoring. You know, I always did my part of, you know, defending, rebounding, stuff like that, leading the team in different aspects. But yeah, some things at the end you never resolve, you know. You can control them better, but you maybe never resolve them if it's something that is kind of installed in yourself.
But what is the inner talk that you have with yourself when the game is not going your way?
Oh, for me, it was so many times like just making sure that I don't get caught in that, because like I can get caught so easily in that. So it was mostly like, it's okay, you missed, no problem, just keep going, you know, like you will score next time, look for something that is easier, blah, 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 and stuff like that. But as I said, like there were so many games, like I just couldn't get it out of my hand. And then on contrary, there were games that I was kind of able to, you know, shift it and be like completely getting back into the zone. So I would like to say that I found the solution, not really, but you know, at the end, you know, that's the only thing you can do. Try to, you know, work on something that might help you in those moments.
Yeah, you mentioned that you worked with a psychologist, and did they help you in those things? Did they kind of guide you in how to manage those situations?
They did. They also, one of the parts I started working was also to kind of save mine and my dad's relationship, you know, because we were so much caught in my basketball and so much dependent one on another, because he was my person where I kind of reload everything that's happening, and you know, I talk about everything that's happening to him, and then in the end, obviously he tells me the stuff that I don't like to hear, that will, you know, affect our parent-kid relationship. So I looked for help because I wanted to kind of move that to another person, you know, and then we can go back to more relaxing topics.
No, for sure.
And the woman was really helpful in that regard. Obviously, you know, sometimes you just want to be heard. You don't even need help for everything. You just want to, you know, kind of let it go. And it's actually funny because it kind of corresponded to big shifts in my life. First is like I started working with her and, you know, sharing thoughts, and then her kind of giving me some guidance through the process, fighting my perfectionist and confidence issues. And then I kind of started having more private life, you know, because before that, like basketball was my private life on a lot of things. And like now I finally kind of had more private life, and it actually, you know, most coaches, most people will think, oh, it's taking from the basketball. For me, it helped. It kind of finally relaxed me. You know, I felt like a lot of time, because I was so focused in basketball, I was a little bit like in trapped, you know, all the time, like holding too tightly, and this kind of relaxed me a little bit.
I'm so happy you said that. I'm so happy, because I really think that we need to break the stigma of thinking that if you have anything else going on in your life, you are not focused enough, you are not giving your everything. But we do need a filter, you know, like we need to do something else, and we're gonna come in the practice better, and we're gonna miss basketball, and we're gonna miss these moments, and we're gonna be eager to do everything that we love actually to do. But sometimes we cannot. We need to prevent those burnouts, you know, so I'm so happy you said that. But you mentioned also that you had 2 injuries. We know that they hit you hard, and they hit us hard, especially they came one right after the another. So how was that? How were these situations?
Well, obviously, you know, bad and hard, but at the end, like I always say, like, you know, I don't regret it. I wouldn't change it. You know, at some point, like my injuries, like really helped me out. You know, meaning, you know, obviously the first one happened actually before I was supposed to go to Spartak. I signed. I got injured with national team. And the fact that, like, I was super scared if they will, you know, respect my contract. They had, you know, the possibility of just, you know, cutting me, and they stay with me throughout the process, you know, help with surgery, paid for it and everything, you know, then kind of even a little bit kind of rewarded me, because I was just getting back from the injury. They took me to Final Four. I won my first EuroLeague with that team, you know, kind of as a reward for all the hard work I did for, you know, getting back. So it kind of nurtured our relationship with, you know, with club and me. So that was one of the big pluses. And then also after the initial thought of why this happened to me, feeling pity, crying over myself, I really kind of turned the tables first, doing a lot of reflection, meaning, I probably deserve this on some, karma level, and I did a lot of, inner expective things, thinking like who I need to apologize and how I need to change my behavior and stuff like that at some level. So a lot of that stuff, and then, I finally had some space because, I played whole summer. I played like junior, under 18, under 20, senior competition and stuff like that with my national team, and then during the season you don't have a lot of space. I finally have some space and time to do practices that I probably didn't before, working on some little things that I didn't, then completely changing the my approach to nutrition, to conditioning and stuff like that. Before, I didn't do any of that stuff so tenaciously, and so I didn't see them as important as they were, So it wasn't easy. I was only 18 when the first happened, 20 when the second happened. A lot of moments where all the players that I was, bigger future talent than them are now already playing and doing stuff that I thought that, a lot of moments when you doubt yourself why you're doing this, a lot of moments when I said, maybe it's time to, accept reality. Is this, really my journey? But at the end, all that kind of pushed me and brought me to better places, So at the end, I'm grateful, because that happened. It helped me, it wasn't easy. Mm-hmm. I didn't got lucky, not to, because you have players who learn that easy way and get lucky not to have those experiences, but it actually, helped me out.
I actually do know a few people who are having the same problem, one after another ACL surgery, and they are very young. And I need you to give them something to hold on, because those moments are not easy, and especially not everybody has the same kind of support that you've had and you were lucky to have. So like, what was something that you would tell them right now, especially at this moment? Because I must say, today is easier. Like back then, like it was not so
that was
common.
The worst injury you can get. At that
now
time.
it's kind of, unfortunately, but fortunately, routine, surgery and recovery process and everything. So that's even like it's going to be better.
Yeah, for me the second one was huge hit. Obviously, I just got back from the first one, started kind of playing finally again, getting in my groove when it happened. And for me, even bigger issue is like usually when you have one leg done, you injure the other one. For me, I injured the same one again. And when the club sent me to doctor, like, I don't remember, but the prognoses were horrible. They were like, maybe 20% of people come back, in such short period, same leg, like horrible prognosis.
That's crazy.
And then they even mentioned like, we need to go inside, we cannot see everything on MRI, maybe you need to have 2 surgeries. Like I remember, getting home, calling my parents, saying like, I'm done. I cannot do this again. Like really. And as you said, like I was lucky. My club didn't even ask me. They were like, no, you're getting surgery. We know you will get back. You're a hard worker, whatever, blah blah. We trust in you. My parents flew in. They were there next to me. The whole process. So what I did was basically, going back what I did throughout my whole career. I trusted in my work, my work ethic, my ability to stay, focused, to stay really kind of making that my priority. So, it wasn't easy, but I kind of make sure that my recovery was done properly, which is also good. Like I kind of use that period when I'm not playing to kind of do something extra for me. Like my first time I started actually my university, like I actually first 6 months went every day to the university, listened to the lectures and stuff like that. So kind of, help actually, you have some project that makes you feel like, oh, I'm still doing something valuable for myself. So it's not easy, but I think it's also good. It gives you perspective, that today you're the best, tomorrow it's over. In women basketball, do you already have contracts that you feel secure no, what you will do after, those injuries, I think, are actually moments that kind of make you aware really fast of, the bigger picture you need to have when it comes to your career choices. So as I said, I know it's not easy. I know for sure they feel so bad for themselves, so much pity, but it actually can be, the situation that gives them, the determination how to, do a lot of things in their life for better.
Yeah. And in this period of time, you played in Spartak, you played with so many superstars, so many great people and players, and also in the rest of your career, wherever you went, those were like big teams with big names. And can you compare those, let's say, role models, because you were still young in this time? Can you tell me how did they impact your career and who you've become as your teammates?
Yeah, I think, maybe that was just my my experience, but I kind of, when I started in Serbia, I felt like the biggest our players, when you're a leader, when you're a star, you kind of has a right to be a little bit a douchebag. And I kind of accepted that, so I thought that's how you function. Which, when you go outside and you kind of start seeing bigger picture, you realize no. And as I mentioned, thankfully to my injuries, I had a lot of time to do a retrospective of how I want to behave, and that changed. But, I had to say that one of the stories I often share, and probably the story that kind of changed my life, how I want to approach my teammates, is the fact that, so I signed with Spartak. I was 18. I was at the time the best chosen European young player, something like that. But at the end, I played for Burj. We were all the same, a team where everything is equal. So I wasn't, I didn't felt like I was, somebody who is recognizable, in the European basketball. So they signed me. I didn't join team until January. They let me do the first part of recovery at home. And I got there, it was some kind of tournament organized in our gym with national teams of Russia, different clubs, whatever. So I'm standing in a hallway waiting for Srđan Sarić was conditioning coach at that time, waiting for him. He's Serbian, the only person I knew, the safe space, so I was waiting for him. And suddenly, I hear from my back somebody yelling, "Petrović!" And I turned, and it was Taurazi, coming to me, hugging me, greeting me. And I'm 18, she's Dejana Taurazi. I was like, she knows my name. She knows who I am. For me, that was she's the one at that time, probably for next who knows how many years in women basketball. And she recognized me, and she kind of approached me and stuff like that. And then with her and Sue and other players in Spartak, I saw how leaders treat not only teammates but then also physio. We had drivers in Spartak and stuff like that. That's also giving a different perspective on how somebody can or want or doesn't want to behave with the people around the team. And then later, I think probably another person who had huge influence on me was Laia Palau. I played with her in Prague, and then later in Girona. We actually had so many clashes against each other.
That helps.
Because Laia would be like, "You cannot behave like that," and stuff like that. But that was actually super, helpful, because she's somebody who, she was obviously an amazing player, everything what she did on court and all the accomplishments. But the way I see Laia, especially because I played her, my biggest influence I had from her was actually off the court. The way that she takes care of her team, and her connection with coach, and then how she kind of later that tried to protect and use as a part of the team, and then how she treats anybody, from the 12th, the young player, to the superstar. So she was a huge influence. And obviously you try to implement that things in your relationships with others. I always say, for sure, there are a lot of, people who will say that I wronged them. I know some of them, and I always feel bad later on. But at the end, in Serbia, as we say, if I had this wisdom before, well, then everything would be so much easier. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But, I said I was really lucky to play with some of the players who I think were really, obviously amazing on the court, but, amazing examples of leadership in women.
And how did this, like you were able to recognize those superstar players who are like from States, for example, and you're coming from Serbia, from Balkan. We know how we function here, and obviously it's two completely different approaches, mindsets, and did that help you? Did that help you change or shift something in you, or like adjust some parts that maybe were not so great here, but maybe better there, and like, did you take on those?
Well, I mean, obviously, the thing I think for me, the most valuable thing we get from playing basketball is that, picking so many things from, different people, different cultures, different traditions, languages, so like it's not only States, but even in Europe, so completely different worlds, from playing East Europe and then West Europe. As I mentioned, like I play a lot of years in Russia. For me, they were easy because I come from Serbia. Imagine we know a lot of examples for people playing in Russia coming from more West countries. So I think that's the thing that, you always think trophies, medals, people will mention friendships, obviously. But I think like the biggest treasure you can get from playing is the opportunity so much broader yourself as a person, because you can pick so many different things from different people coming from different places, speaking different countries, different languages, and sharing their country stories.
Yeah. And did you have always kind of a good relationship in the locker room? How did you manage this? Like obviously from different roles, because you were, like you said, like we all went through every role possible, and like coming to the leadership role in your team and probably leader in the locker room to manage everything. And how was this for you? Like, do you have?
No, obviously not. Not especially, I guess, because usually I play for a team with big expectations. When it comes big expectation, it's not easy. The pressure comes, and then if you feel it in locker room, it can break on some people, but it wasn't always great, and honestly I do have to say that I think a lot of people don't even understand how it's much tougher on us, because I feel like you have you always have domestic players who are a little bit protective, because you need to have domestic players, and a lot of countries have rules that protects them and stuff like that. Then you have Americans who are pretty much untouchable. They usually either have a big name or good agent or stuff like that. They are untouchable. They can do. And then you have us, the rest of the Europeans, and we are usually the focus point to blame for everything. So I did feel like a lot of time, that we always kind of have to bring extra, and that it's not always fair to us. As I mentioned, like in Russia, you had a rule that you have to have 2 Russians on the court for a long time, and that basically means for sure some players who probably are not good as you will be playing before you. But it's actually a good, it's actually something that really helped me for my life after basketball, all that relationship, and then obviously how different leaders, different captains act, then how different teammates act. Do they go behind your back or not? Those are all the situations that actually will happen to you once you work in company, once you are working in some shared environment and stuff like that. So for me, actually, it was like always kind of a learning moment of like, oh, watch out, because maybe this can happen later on. So you try to kind of twist it and make it making like that experience is a good experience, even though it's not always good experience and it's not always easy. And we both know that the great part of women basketball is that a lot of time an underdog and not so good team, thanks to the chemistry, motivation, good management, good friendships can be better than it is and make amazing things that you didn't expect. But then also you can have a reverse effect that a lot of times chemistry or bad relationship or just somebody waking up in a bad mood can ruin a completely a team atmosphere that day, and you lose a championship game or something like that. So it's complicated, but that's
it's very complicated.
as we always try to not to admit it, but at the end the different side of women is that we are more complicated, and imagine 12 of us together.
Yeah, and I want to talk about something that I just learned the other day from another player that I know. She was telling me, they don't know that I understand them in the locker room. And that happened to me. Like you also, you learned every language everywhere you went. You learned the language, so you knew. And I remember my situation too. I would come in the locker room and I did not expect to understand. I didn't know I understood that much of the language, but I was like, they are actually talking about me. I give it a little more ear, and I'm like, what do I do with this now? And those are very complicated situations, especially with women. I think with guys is much different. I think what they have to say, they just say it, and I would love that to be for us too. But did you ever encounter these things?
I don't think I like that situation that I understand them and they're not aware, but I did encounter a lot of moments, when I knew that you went behind my back and talk, with coach or manager or stuff like that, trying to win a space for you, a space that will directly mean taking my space, but I feel like for me at the end it always came down to the issue is we all take it so much personally, and you always see that person as the enemy and stuff like that. In the end, if you realize that you're not friends, you're co-workers, what's the mutual goal there? To win games, at the end, that's the problem, because the emotional part of our job, because you do something that it's your dream, you love it, always a little bit blur the lines, of the actual thing. So for me, if the ultimate goal is to win, that means, playing with a person you don't like, you play because you want to win.
Exactly.
For me at the court, that's my, best teammate, best friend I can have, because, at the end, if we have the same ultimate goal of winning, I don't have the problem with that person. And later on, obviously, we might not go have drinks together and hug each other out, after the game, but,
the court
I think, the most important is, kind of realizing that the court is the sanctuary. The way you behave that, you cannot behave in the locker room.
Yeah. And I kind of saved this for the end of our conversation, because I'm pretty sure that was the most beautiful part of your career, playing for Serbia and wearing the national team jersey. And let's talk about that a little bit. Even from the younger teams under 12, 14, 16, 18 to the seniors, and to winning the Eurobasket, to going to Olympics. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, obviously there was a lot of, different moments. I always say, people always say, did you dream to do all the stuff that you did? I didn't, because I didn't think it's possible. Serbia winning Olympic medal, not possible, not a chance. So I didn't dream it. So a lot of things that happened that we accomplished, succeeded, all the dreams I had, because I didn't have it in my head that it's possible, especially I kind of feel why I'm super proud of us. I feel like we opened the door for smaller countries to believe that it's possible, that with, one good generation you can actually, get it done. So it's special. I started, as you said, super early. I think my first preparations I was maybe 11, something like that. I started playing when I was 13 for the first, continental championships. And those were the best years, honestly. The youth competitions, all the friendships we got from there, those were the best. And for me, I always say, I think that was even the huge part of the later success. Jelena Milovanović, Ana Dabović, Nevena Jovanović. Like I played with all of them when we were 15, 16. Like it gives you something. Like later on, even like we had moments when we were super close, not so close, whatever. But like the confidence and the understanding that you have among each other. It is bigger because you spent so many times. There were years when you spend more times with them than when you're with your family. So the young competitions are probably the best memories. Obviously, what I'm the proudest most were the years after. When I came back to national team, because I did have a lot of years when I didn't play. Started off with my injuries, and then honestly, there was a moment when I thought that I don't really fit the program that was at that time beginning, before me and Coach Maljković kind of opened the Pandora box and figured things out how they can work. But yeah, later on, we really did something great. We put women basketball in Serbia on the map, which didn't exist at that time, since 80s, you basically didn't have a mention of national team senior, you didn't have a medal, you didn't have any more the same motivation for little girls to play and stuff like that. So, I think that's the proudest moment for me, it's not the medals and stuff like that, yes, but at the end, now you can see the generation that start playing because we did something, because they saw us on TV and they said, I want to do the same. And that's, I think the biggest, gift that you can give back to the sport that in the end, for the most of us gave us everything, basketball for me, basically gave me the life that I have today, and I'm super thankful for that.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you never actually dreamed of coming so far. So what were your goals? Like, did you have goals when you were younger? How did this happen in you? When did you start setting them?
Yeah, I didn't really have goals because I mean now it's so weird because like I didn't know that the EuroLeague women exists. I didn't know that WNBA exists. We come from the time when, the internet is starting.
We had newspapers.
And stuff like that. Yeah, but exactly, you didn't have social media that you can each day see who is now the best player, most popular, statistics, stuff like that, highlights. So I didn't even know which doors I can maybe open for me or others after me. So, honestly, like my only goal, but it's not even in basketball, whatever I do, like I hate losing. So whatever I do, like I try always to win. I try to be the best, I am realistic. I know I cannot be the best if you have better than you on a team, but I try to be the best version of myself. And then, if that's enough to be the best comparing to others, well, great. If not, well, whatever. That's something you need to accept. But yeah, I didn't like my goals. Like I couldn't say like, oh, my goal is to win EuroLeague. I knew I want to put myself in a situation to try to do it. But I didn't have it like a specific goal. Later on, when you start learning about stuff and goal setting and stuff like that, yeah, especially towards the end of my career, usually every New Year's, my husband and I, both of us would do like what we would like to happen that year. And like I know my last year when we had Eurobasket and Olympics, I did wrote down like, I hope I would win one medal at least, at those two competitions. So it did happen, but before that, I didn't do any kind of structured goal setting.
Yeah, and since you mentioned your husband, how is it being married to another athlete? How is the understanding in the house?
Yeah, I mean, that's when I say like I say I'm super thankful to basketball because like I wouldn't meet my husband if I didn't play basketball. Like we met at the Olympics, so probably our path would never cross if I didn't play basketball. So that's probably the biggest gift basketball gave me. Meeting him and then creating our own family. And I always say Milos is probably the best thing that happened in my life. When we met, I actually started playing better. The best basketball of my life I played is when I started, dating him and being with him. So he's probably much more relaxed and easygoing than me. You know, I'm the burning energy, and he is kind of the calming effect. So that's super helpful to have next to myself. But it's actually so much easier when you date athlete, but not from your sport. Because, you know, basketball is not anymore 100% of my life. If we talk, it's not only basketball talk, you know, it's sports talk, but not basketball. But you still have somebody who understands what it means if you need to rest, if you need, you know, to take a recovery, blah, 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 and stuff like that. So it was really kind of helpful to have somebody who comes from that world and understands you, but he's not drowning me because he's coming from my sport.
Yeah. Awesome. Beautiful, something great. Another great thing that came from basketball. And for the end of our conversation, for real now, free throws. This technique you had, how did that come about? Like you seem extremely confident and focused, and it's the same thing over and over, and it's something that's recommended. So can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so actually I started later on, like when I was 17 Bourges, because before that, like I would be like on off, like I would shoot great, and then as we mentioned, confidence, like I would miss one or two important, and then I would get in a, you know, crazy strike of not being able to, you know, score like so many. So my dad kept saying me like, you cannot do it like that, like free throws are the easiest shot in basketball you can shoot. Like nobody is moving, everybody's in a place, basket is in a place, your feet are in a place, like the easiest shot you can have, you need to just focus. So when I played Bourges, my coach actually, he was like, yeah, like you need something that you will do that will put you in a focus zone. Like once you have a routine, you know, I need to do my routine, and that routine actually puts you in a focus. And then, I don't know, like, I think he suggested like throw ball like this, and for me kind of, because I think I was like a little bit bouncing when I do it, it kind of came naturally to put it on my hip, because I needed something to kind of feel in the emptiness between the bouncing, and that's why I started it, and in the end, you know, it stayed with me until the end of my career, and I think, you know, made it pretty helpful to have a high percentage free throw shooting.
And made us all recognize you by it.
Yeah, but I still, you know, even until today, when you will know him, I don't know for other people, but even until today, when I ever ran into Igor Petrović, he's always like, you stole that from me. I didn't have that in mind, but at the end, you know, it's
you probably didn't even
more or
see
less the same technique.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I feel like we could sit here and talk for another hour, but this was great, and I thank you for, as I said before, recognizing the worth in this project, and trying to raise the mental health awareness among athletes and in sports in general. So thank you so much. Thank you for being my first guest and breaking the ice, and good luck with everything that you are doing. And we are so grateful that we have somebody like you in those positions that you are feeling right now.
Thank you, Mima. And you know, who knows, maybe we can do the big 100 or something like that podcast again.
Perfect idea. Thank you so much.
Jovanović